What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about some Lucid expansion both in North America and also Europe and what that might mean for us as investors. Outside of that, on Friday, there was a lot of interesting things that was happening from an institutional stance. So I want to share that with you and get your opinions on that as well. But before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Always greatly appreciated. And let's get right to it. So first and foremost, hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend. I do want to start by talking about their expansion. So Lucid was pretty active this week as far as popping up and opening new studios, one of which as seen right here. So in Switzerland, they opened up their first retail location, aka studio. And I think in general, that's a fairly big thing because for the most part, especially more so in Q1 and Q2, it's been proven the fact that the number of retail and studios, if you want to call them that, is very much linked to the number of reservations, especially more so in Europe. Europe, for the most part, is very much untapped from Lucid's point of view. So having more retail locations will have spread a little bit more word of mouth and help with the marketing aspect as well. As of right now, I do not believe that Lucid has officially started any advertising in Europe, but once that does, and once they do start potentially, Europe is going to be a very big attributing factor for our reservations. So again, that's just going to be one layer on the overall cake for Lucid, if you want to consider it that way. Second one is Dallas. So Dallas, for the most part, is another very big untapped potential. A lot of big money is in Texas, but this specific studio is very interesting. And some people did ask me on Twitter, how does this work into the lawsuit? So in case you guys do not know, Lucid is actually suing the state of Texas over their direct sales ban. And obviously that goes against Lucid's main model of direct to customer and so forth, kind of cutting out the middleman and the whole dealership situation in that regard. So what is the purpose of this studio? And the simple answer is to drive up demand. As far as reservations, if someone in Texas wanted to purchase a Lucid, some people did comment, because I did touch on this specific lawsuit already in a video. Some people from Texas just said that they still got their vehicle as normal. So I don't know if they're just bypassing this whole direct sales ban, potentially maybe some other way of doing that. I'm not really sure of that, but a couple people from Texas did message me saying that they still did get their actual vehicle. So in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that this studio is overall going to be affected by this lawsuit or by the direct sales ban. But again, who am I to judge? I'm not really sure. I'm not a financial advisor or anything. These videos are for entertainment purposes only. But regardless, as I said, especially more so in Q1 and Q2, it did show that the number of studios is very much correlated with an increase in reservations. Because obviously, if you see this vehicle, why the hell would you not like it? You see a lot more driving down the street, word of mouth. What is that beautiful vehicle? Especially more so if they are at a red light and they go from 0 to 60, like it catches, it's an eye turner. Can't argue with that. And the funny thing is, even the biggest bears in Lucid all say the exact same thing. It's a very beautiful vehicle. And then they go on to talk about production or something like that. And that's a very good positive thing to be seen as, is a very beautiful, powerful vehicle. And so again, it is what it is. So overall, hopefully with these being opened, so like I said, the Switzerland and also Dallas, that should attribute to a little bit more reservations in theory. So our Q4 hopefully will be a little bit more than the 34,000 reservations. Of course, it's always going to be a revolving door because they're really pumping out a lot of vehicles. So in theory, that should reduce the number of reservations just based on that. But keep in mind, I believe this is now the second studio in Europe. So hopefully that should drive demand a little bit. And based on articles I've seen about Germany, I think it did dry up a little bit as far as demand, because Germany is going through a lot of situations right now as far as heating and so forth. So maybe someone purchasing a very expensive vehicle is not top of their priority. So maybe that might be one of the attributing causes why our reservations did in fact go down. Again, that's a little bit more of a hiccup, short-term pain, long-term benefit. That's what Lucid basically encumbers. But at the end of the day, what institutions are doing with Lucid has been very interesting. And I want to start by talking about shorts. And more specifically on Friday, so short score is currently 87. Higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening. Utilization is 100%. It's been 100% for a very, very long time. And then moving on from that Just on Friday alone, they increased 4.56 million shares, and that's net. So that's a pretty substantial amount, bringing the grand total to 139.87 million shares being shorted. That is just absolutely insane. And over and above that though, cost to borrow is starting to go back up, so 12.44, that's the average. And the short score, or short interest I should say, is 23.51. And when it comes down to Lucid, their short interest has always been a little bit more different than other growth stocks. Other growth stocks went down roughly about 50% from their short interest over the previous 3 months. But not necessarily in Lucid's case. In the contrary, they've actually gone up. So very abnormal what is happening behind the scenes with shorts. And as I usually do, I like to give you a lot of updates as far as what's happening on the dark pool, secondary market, and also right here, the 13Fs, the latest 13Fs. So when it comes to that though, dark pool transactions, there was a fairly large one, so $6.53 million worth of in one transaction. Friday was for the most part pretty active, and again, as I always say, Fridays should be dead, at least in theory, but 6.53 million for one transaction is pretty significant. And if you do correlate this and the time frame with these charts, these fun charts at the very bottom, it goes to show that a short increased their position. And keep in mind, in case you guys don't know, when a short does increase their position or make a brand new position, they sell first and cover later, so they buy back later. So this is why you see first thing in the morning our borrowed shares just go straight up. So again, this is why I like to look what is happening behind the scenes. Everything is correlated. So do you personally feel, and this is hopefully everyone can answer this, why do you feel that shorts are doubling down at this stage in the game? Because arguably, looking at the chart and possibly the risk versus reward, I would possibly feel and estimate maybe a 20% downside versus an upside potential of unlimited, potentially. Again, I'm not a financial advisor or anything, but the downside risk for Lucid is very, very slim unless they're assuming some very bad situation is going to be coming. So again, take all of this with a grain of salt. I like to always give you a lot of the data. You guys take what you want, interpret that, see if it's a positive or a negative in your own opinion, and do your own due diligence ultimately. So let me know your thoughts on this, why shorts are increasing their position at this stage in the game. Over and above that though, this is the transactions on the secondary market, the large ones per se. So I believe the threshold is 100,000. So in general though, secondary market was very, very active after hours on Friday. So once again, that is a very big abnormality. And comparing all these, this was not shorts closing out their positions, but you can see after hours, there was a $6.33 million order. So that's pretty significant in the grand scheme of things, at least how I interpret that. I always like to see what big money is doing behind the scenes. Same with the 13Fs. 13Fs have been very interesting. You do see a lot of institutions increasing their position, and that could always be seen as a very positive sign. More so as well, if you do look at this column, you see the value changed. And ultimately, everyone, for the most part, even I'm sure retail investors, are at a loss. But yet, a lot of institutions are still increasing their positions, such as BlackRock and so forth, because they see the whole value in Lucid. And more specifically, I just want to show you this as well, as far as it's a little bit more easier to see. So as far as the last reported data, you do see the PIF, they submitted it on November the 8th. I believe that came out a little bit earlier, but you see institutions such as BlackRock in Q3, they did increase 1.02 million. Geode, First Trust, all increased. You do see some, such as ProShares, did reduce roughly about 25,000 shares. In the grand scheme of things, that's not much, majority of which all increased their position. Vanguard, 10.32 million. So behind the scenes, institutions love it. At the same time, behind the scenes, shorts seem to love it as well. So you get these a little bit more of a contradictory battle. So let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below. Generally speaking, we have to look forward. And as far as forward, one positive way of doing that is going back and looking at the actual expansion. So them opening up a retail store in Switzerland and studio in Dallas is seen as very positive things. At least moving and expanding to different areas should, in theory, bring us more reservations. On which more reservations equals more revenue, more money for investors, for Lucid. Everyone's happy in the bigger picture. So let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments below. Hopefully everyone is having an amazing weekend thus far. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. It's always greatly appreciated. And if you do like my channel and support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that said, appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.